Have you ever wondered what goes into specifically deciding on all the things that you see and meet and sit on and feel and touch on board an airliner when you're flying as a passenger? Well, this here is going to be a special bonus video for you because we're at the Customer Definition Centre at Airbus's Hamburg facilities, and we're going to get a grand tour of this 10,000 square meter facility where the customers come to decide everything down to the last little detail. So let's go do it.
This is the Airbus Customer Definition Centre. It's actually the place where we do all the definitions for every cabin we have in Airbus aircraft. It's really a unique environment because it's those 10,000 square meters here, and it's really dedicated. We have fully integrated cabin mockups. We're using virtual reality. We're using a lot of functional playrooms for really testing the equipment. So it's really touching the product. Like if you would be the customer, this is what you're going to fly afterwards, and that's really interesting for the customers, as you can imagine. And they are coming from all over the world just to come here to that place. And it's unique in Hamburg because we have the entire cabin engineering here, and obviously it makes totally sense to actually bring those guys over here to go into the details and then really check what's going on and to go into the different, as we call them, commodities like galleys, lavatories, all those things. You can have a touch and feel here, but on the other side you also have the experts explaining it. And I would love to take the opportunity, guiding you through this environment because I think it's going to be fantastic for you guys. Okay, follow me. So this is the welcome area, as you can imagine. So all the people and the customers coming here, good morning. Some are coming straight from the airport. That's the reason why we're actually having two customer areas. It's really about, come here, this is your place for the next couple of days, and then you end up being in one of the rooms. And I open one of the customer areas for you guys now. So imagining being a customer might be an average group of 12 people. It depends on the meeting type. If we're, for example, doing lighting workshops, can be also for, final decision-making meetings, then we're roughly having, 13 to 16 customers here. That means you end up in a meeting room later on in a group of 20 to maximum 40 people. So it's a very interesting environment, but first, as I said, you come here as a customer. This is basically your environment for the coming days. It's your nesting zone, basically. So you have a coffee machine, you have a bathroom, you have a shower even, and you get free Wi-Fi. All doors were badge controlled, so when you actually get the badge at the main entrance, you take that badge and then you can actually move around the CDC quite freely. So just to give you an idea, this is obviously open space here, and this is what we call the holy wall. Actually, it's the full LED lighting we're having also in the A350. So what we do, it depends a little bit on the customer. We also are able to put exactly the brand color here. It's really nice to see the smile of the customers. Moving on here, this is what we call the play area. In the end, it's really the fact that you actually walk around this area and you really touch and feel the products. So if I'm just asking you to follow me, we would end up what we call the play galley area. It's the only place of the world where you have the opportunity to test the equipment from all the different suppliers simultaneously. So what you see here is all the ovens, all the water machines, all the coffee makers, all the fridges being available right now, set up for the A350, but it's a cross-program environment. That means we're actually setting up the scene, and this makes it so interesting because the CDC team itself is working very close with the host of the meeting, which might be the program speaking for 350 in this context, and then we know exactly what they actually want to see. So we actually pre-align the agenda. We know exactly what kind of products they want to test. We might also invite the different suppliers to come here in order to show the products. And we're just bringing the environment to life with this so that you meet physically, but on the other side, you also can touch and feel the units. And there are no dummy units. They are really fully functional units. And you can easily take them, and we have a special table for that. But imagining taking that table, taking one of the ovens here and putting the oven straight here. Because what you see here on the wall is basically the water supply and the power supply. This is an R-ring standard where you have the opportunity to connect those. And then, for example, put an oven A, B, and C next to each other, which is a unique opportunity for the customer also to compare. So when we're talking about so-called play, galley, game test sessions. It's really like a cooking session. So the customer is typically delivering their food, what they serve up in the air, 2 to 3 days before the workshop. And then we have big freezers and fridges just behind that door. And then we store them. And when the meeting starts and the game test session is about, 3 days, because first day might be ovens, second day is fridges and water heaters, and then you're going to bun warmers and microwaves and so on. But especially for the ovens, the fridges, it's really convenient to test it here on our bench and to compare how long does it take to heat up the pasta. How fresh in the end then is the meat. All those things you can test, and you have the different suppliers also in-house. So they can explain also the way to put in the graphic user interface, like how to control the oven, what's the program you really suggest to have a perfect steak, and in the end then also to share the results and maybe also discuss the results. So there you see a door one sound of the A350. And the reason why we have that is obviously when you have a silent environment, you just hear the noise of every product. I mean, imagining turning on your microwave at home, you'll definitely hear the microwave. But when you have your kitchen radio running, you don't hear the microwave as much. And here it's the same thing. And now imagining doing this for the trash compactor, where it's about, compacting the trash. So it's a different sound, so it's going to be different when you have the noise of the cabin. So what we're trying to do here in the CDC is really to provide a cabin-near environment. It's not just, putting those products on a bench. It's really testing and trying to come very, very close to the situation as we're having it in the aircraft. Next stop. I just, give you an idea. What we have here leading into those areas is what we call the innovation area. It's really the case that we are showing concepts over there. So what we're more and more doing is we're involving our airline customers into the product development cycle. So that basically means we're trying also to get ideas how they want to see things or do things in the next few years. And then we're doing concept, might be even Airbus, might be also suppliers, and we're giving this area here as a space in order to bring our airline customers there and to just, have a first-hand feedback. How do you like that? Do you see that coming? Would it be something which is really interesting for you? In order not just to invent here and there, it's actually, seeing the CDC as a one-stop shop for customization again. I would love to show you next is what we call the Inspire area. So when we're actually building up this place, we've opened in 2014, we really had the idea of showing fully integrated cabin mockups, so not just showing seats in a single place, or lavatories or galleys. We said, when it's about definition, we really need to show a cabin-near environment with floor to floor, the full lining, because this really gives you the feeling as an airline customer, this is going to be my aircraft. And those are all A350 mock-ups. They're representing all different door zones, and I would love to show you 2 of them, just giving a feeling of how it is for a customer actually walking down this path and walkway and then check out their potential future cabin. I would love to show you door 1 of the A350. So feel free to come in. This is giving you an idea of business class environment. We have a business class lining here as well, a high ceiling in the middle. We have the business class bins on the right hand side. We have a business class seat, just as an explanation. In all the different mock-ups, we have different setups. So as we're talking here about the door 1, just next door, we have a door 4. On the other side, we have a door 2. Some are more representatives, talking about the A350, for example. The door 2 is always very interesting because it's a so-called welcoming door. So it's basically where the passengers board. So that's very interesting because it's a first touch point inside an aircraft to know, okay, which customer am I flying today? Obviously, you should know that before, depends on your booking. So this is the A350 door 4, one of the arrangements. You see here the center bins, as you can see already there, it's a huge difference if you compare it to the other mock-up, because there's no high ceiling here, this is a center bin. There's no business class here, because it's an economy class 8 in this configuration. And we have here down the aisle a galley, and it's a galley complex with the different lavatories as well. This is not just there to have a glimpse and an idea how it feels on an A350. It's also for testing, and we talked about crew before, and it's quite usual that airlines are bringing their crew during the definition, which I personally find very, very important, because in the end it's also the crew flying, it's not just the passenger. In the end, it's really important that they also have a feeling what their future working environment looks like. And just, you know, to give you an idea of the comparison, obviously this is a bifolding or bifolding door, so it's a lavatory there inside if you have a look. So this is the configuration we're having, and if we're just going to the other lavatory, you have it. For obvious reason, you would never do that in an aircraft, so either you go for this door or go for the other one. But for the CDC, it's important to show options. Also from an interior, it looks different than the one over there. Why do we do this? Again, in order to demonstrate all the variety, in this case the A350 offers. Where I talked about the cabin near environment, you're having also the luggage, and that's the reason why they are here in an open bin, so that you also can do the testing. Because again, for cabin crew, it's quite interesting also, you know, how to handle this, because it might sound obvious, but it also depends what's the weight. Are also equipped with a 10 kilograms, so that you actually have, you know, a representative environment, so that you also can test again, where is the seat? How is it for me as a cabin crew to push that up? Those things we're actually checking here. And sometimes airlines are even bringing their own luggage, what they have as their, you know, special suitcase, and they bring it here, and then they test all of this in our bins slash hat racks.
This is so satisfying to see 5 really nicely stowed bags.
So that's the reason why they're also fully functional. Otherwise, you know, you could have also said, oh, maybe we you know, show something else in here. But in order to reflect the real cabin environment, we actually decided to go this way. We aligned also the dimensions according to how we specified the bin, so that the luggage comes very, very close to the original setup. And this is the way we do it then, in order to offer this to the customers. Here you have an emergency escape, which is basically, if you just look, yes, you know those, you might know the green signs, because we also use them for doors, for example, or normal, you know, buildings. But that's the way it is. And you also have the opportunity in an A350 to get that as a 6 bunks or an 8 bunk. There's one, speaking for the 350 now, there's one in the back, which is the door 4, where you can actually have this one as a 6 bunk or an 8 bunk. Or you have the one at the front, which is the cruise compartment, where we call it the flight cruise compartment. And there you actually can find it, and there it's accessible for the pilots, but you also have a seat there, for example. So this is predefined for the 350.
I've never actually had a lie down in a crew rest, believe it or not. So I'm going to take this chance to try it. Yeah, it's pretty good. Kind of more spacious than I would expect.
What I would love to show you next is what we call one of the design studios with the lighting mock-up of the 350 just next door. Why do we have that? Because the 350 offers 16.7 million colors, so it's full LED lighting, mood lighting. So in this context, you can choose the different materials, and then you take them and you just bring them into the lighting mock-up. It looks different, believe me, when you look at a warm or cold white light. But when you really go into the aircraft and you're taking those opportunities of the full LED lighting, you'll definitely see a difference. So what you're seeing here is exactly what I tried to tell you with the light. So we're having them again located next to the facade. So you bring the sunlight in there. We have lights in there representing the cabin near environment, and the warm lights and the cold lights. We also have design pillars, basically showing different materials, different surfaces, everything pre-prepared for the next customer visit. On top of that, we're having displays, all movable, where you see, for example, from the different suppliers, in this case, the coating solutions. On the other side, you see the bumpers of the A350. Also a display, also movable. Why movable? Because we just bring them into the room or into the big meeting room. So it depends on the situation. If the customer doesn't have so much time or doesn't want to split, or there's a dedicated slot, we take them, bring them into the room, they can discuss it there, we close it and bring it back here. We're also having, for example, some non-electrical four-path marking, also a movable display. We're having lining, sidewalls, all different materials. When you go closer, you actually see that, and it's not just when looking at it, you also see the surface is a bit different. You shouldn't do that with a fingernail, but it represents it quite well. So it's really about details. And this is what the CDC is all about. So, and now I would love to coming what I told you before, you actually bring all those samples. You might take some samples which are already here. You might also bring some other samples. All of this you discuss in this room, but it brings the topics to life when you're actually going through this door. And then you're entering what we call our A350 lighting mockup. It's a door 2 zone. I explained to you before, very important because it's the welcoming the boarding door of the 350. So that's the reason this is a typical environment and layout. So you have 2 galleys basically, but you could also have other things. I don't want to go into the details, but you might have seen layouts from certain customers flying. So there are opportunities, let's put it this way. If we're just going into the left-hand side, we see a business class dummy arrangement. You have a high ceiling here, you have the bins over here, and you have on this side what we call the first class lining. So typically, again, in an aircraft you would never find this, but here from a definition perspective it's important to have that, because we might have some customers being interested in first class solutions, then we're just taking this side. But we're also able, as you can imagine, and that's the reason why we're having a technical team dedicated also to the CDC and in the CDC, to actually take out those bins and bring in the same lining we're having on this side. I would also love to show you the other area. This is a typical economy class / premium economy environment. It's not about doing the definition of the aircraft itself, the layout here. Here it's really about a color, material and finish, the materials and the different lighting. And I would love just to put on the show scenario, as we call it internally, because I think it gives you a good idea. It's a fully equipped lighting environment according to the A350 cabin. It's one-to-one the same from a wiring perspective, from a lighting perspective, and from a control perspective. So it's really a great place to go through the different scenarios. We have a dedicated team of lighting designers, because it's not just the CDC team. We are offering a space, but we're working very, very close with all the different departments, also speaking Airbus internally. So it's a lighting designer being here involved, looking at the lighting. We have the so-called CMF, color, material and finish designer, coming also here, taking and bringing all the different materials, putting them on a seat, for example, in order to check how does it feel, you know, the leather or the material when I have this lighting. I mean, never, you know, this show scenario does not really represent the reality. I can tell you that some airlines are interested to do that, maybe as a birthday scenario. But nevertheless, in the end, you're saying, I would love to have a boarding scenario. I would have a meal scenario, takeoff, landing. It's really, you put all the different materials over here and then you check how does it work with the lighting. And it could be that in the end, you know, like an agency or internal designer saying, oh no, just put a little bit more blue. I want to have it a bit more in this direction. Then we have the lighting designer preparing this a little bit of blue, starting again, and then talking also about, well, I would love to have the catering scenario. Maybe the transition should not be 1 minute. Let's do it 1 minute 20, because from an operation perspective, we do this and this and this. And in this time frame, it needs to match also the services from the cabin crew. When I say details matter, it's really about details in the CDC. And to come even more to reality, we have those very, very realistic fruits. They might look very, well, okay, it's a dummy fruit, but it's pretty good dummy fruits, because they need to represent the reality as good as they can. In Airbus, we started with building 1. So it's one of the oldest hangars we have. This is actually 3A, was built in the 1960s. So it's still pretty old. And that's the reason when we were setting up this place before, I would say, you know, in the 60s, 70s, they used to build water planes in here. So yeah. Hangar 9 was not existing yet. So what they did is actually they used this area and used this hangar in order to build those planes. And then over time, obviously, things changed. And then we used this hangar for different purposes. But in the end, we've decided to bring in here the Customer Definition Centre. And it was really a fantastic project at that time to build something, speaking for a high-end product like the A350, and using an old industrial hangar to bring in a customer dedicated space. I just give you an idea. This clock is actually the very old clock hanging up in the hangar, and was used for all the blue collar activities, for example, to see when is lunchtime, when is the next crew coming. And we wanted to refurbish it, and we gave it to a person, and they looked at it and said it's perfect. They just now reinstalled that we can manipulate a little bit the summertime, but in fact that's the only thing they did. So they left it as it is, and we kept it obviously in this building because we really loved this, because it's part of the history of that place and just fits there. Otherwise we played with this loft character idea, because it's always interesting to keep the industrial spirit, but on the other side to bring in something new. What we're actually looking at was more or less this place in certain areas. We've seen here, we've been in the custom area, we've seen the play galley environment, we've been just, in the design studio, we've seen a few mock-ups. So we ended up here. All of this you have not seen yet. Just that you have an idea of how huge and how big the space is. So welcome to one of our configure rooms. So we came up with a system where actually Airbus also owns an IP, so intellectual property, and with a single click I actually converted this nice image to a 1:1 scale A350 layout. So that's the door one. You have the galley, and the lavatory here. It's the same, and we have a business class seat here. That's exactly the same style we were actually showing you downstairs in the fully integrated cabin mock-up. How do we use this room? This room is very interesting for various reasons. Depending a little bit, it could be used in order to check the different layouts. And now I need to go exactly where you just moved, but that's no problem. Because what you can easily do, you can overblend. Now looking again at the floor, and I'm taking out the other color, and I bring in this color even more. So you see, it's a door one situation here at the front, completely looking different from an arrangement, and also having a completely different seat model. So thinking about the earlier phase of the definition, that's very convenient, because it's not just looking at a PDF document which you share on a big screen, and then you click PDF 1 and 2. Here, it's you bring in all the people, again, 1:1 scale, and have an idea of how that feels to move from A to B. On top of that, you have the opportunity taking a trolley and to maneuver this trolley through the layout. So for example, checking out the galley, which might be standing there, but I would love to change to the other layout because this reflects it a bit better. So I'm moving in to the other one. Don't be confused, two layouts on the floor. And I take this one out again, and we're back here. And now imagining that you're actually having the trolley standing here, and you might also have another trolley. Depends on the situation. We could also bring a real galley in here. We can also mock up a dimension mock-up, so just reflecting the galley. It really depends on the scope. If, for example, cabin crew would love to know, how does that work from a handling perspective? How do I get that out? Is there enough clearance here? Do I move it around here? Do I push it to this side? How do I actually get through this S-curve? All those things, this is exactly how our airline customers using that room. And you can do this with an empty trolley, which might be very easy. And you can do this with a 100-kilogram trolley, and I tell you there's a difference, especially in flight. So those things, and that's the reason why we have a 100-kilo trolley standing there as well, which is slightly, and now you can push it for fun if you want to, because it's not so easy to push. You've been a previous cabin crew, right? That's what you mentioned. So here you go. I wouldn't say nobody likes bumpers, but when you invest a lot of money for a business class seat, there's obviously a very certain idea for design. So there's now the balance to find between how do I secure and save my products to keep them as shiny and nice as possible, but also to guarantee operations that it works. And this is always an interesting topic because you have passenger experience manager in the room, but you might also have crew in the room. So it's going to be interesting discussions, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's the same thing. It's good to have that room because you trigger those discussions here. You're not triggering these discussions when we're actually having the aircraft already in the final assembly line. Because then it might be pretty late to start this discussion, or worst case scenario, to change something.
Yeah.
So we rather prefer realizing this here in this environment before we're already in the real aircraft.
Oh man. Yeah. I feel like I'm at the gym.
100 kilo.
I'd be hitting all the seats.
Yeah, it would be a lot of bumpers for you.
Yeah. Extra bumpers on my airline.
Yeah.
A lot of complaints.
Yeah.
So
respect to the cabin crew.
yeah, it's respect. I totally agree. On top of that, you also have all the equipment for handicapped people.
Yeah.
We're also having this wheelchair, onboard wheelchair, normal wheelchair. So this is the so-called CDC extension, and we've opened up this place in 2019, and this is really Hangar 3. So this is the one which was built in the 1930s. And so see all the roof construction, it's exactly the roof construction they used to have those days. And there were several ideas of working our way through, how do we want to do it, do we want to hide it when we're establishing this one, and we said no, we keep it open, fits quite well to the loft character idea. We worked in this entire meeting room environment, so basically it was an empty hangar, so this floor was not existing. If we come closer here, we're actually seeing the balcony concept. So in this area, we're actually having everything which is related to A330. We have a crewers compartment standing there. It follows a little bit the same way how we displayed the A350 mockups, besides the fact that we have full barrels, so we have also a cargo environment. So that's important also because they are always adhere making best use of the cargo environment. That's the reason why we planted here as well. We have a dedicated lounge again. We have a few mock-ups dedicated to 220. That's the reason why I mentioned at the beginning it's a cross-program environment. And just on the other side, and we go there in a second, we have the 320 environment. And you should see the 321 in this context flying in 3D. And I will just start the scene. And you should see all the A321 flying in 3D. You see that? And don't worry too much about the flickering because in fact, it's a fly-through of a real 3D scene. We have actually 4 computers just behind that wall and it's a live rendering. Basically, it's a render farm in the end. And what they do is they render all the pictures in reality, which is roughly 45,000 images per second, just to give you an idea. And all of this, it's actually displayed then on a 6x3 meter wall. Why do I have a 6x3 meter wall? It's because of the fact that we have the opportunity up to the A380 to actually put the real diameter of the 380 here, and you put yourself here with the goggles and you actually have the feeling that you're standing inside the aircraft. And this scene, as I was saying, showing the airspace package, most of the parts at least, in a single aisle, having the so-called hero light at the top, having the XL bins, the new lining, having a seat model here, having the opportunity to open also the bins so that you have the opportunity seeing them again upright and not horizontal, which is a key differentiator in this class. We're now at the last door and we're just now turning to the other side and then we're dimming and flying out. In this tool, we're able to change the lighting. We can take out the seats, exchange them with different seats. So you have the opportunity staying in that room and going through the layout and seeing all the options. On top of that, you can always put the goggles down and you go downstairs to the real mock-ups. And this is the USP, like really the mystery of this place, that you actually bring together the people. You meet here. You have a room, you sit in one room, and then you have everything under one roof, which basically means you put the goggles down, you go downstairs, and then you see what you've just seen here in 3D, in reality, and you might even place yourself in the seat you're talking about. Just to see a little bit of a difference to an A330 mock-up, also fully integrated with a new welcome effect ceiling. On the left-hand side, for example, a seat model, which is a 2-3-2 configuration, just for experience, and it's also a lighting mock-up. So here we're making best use of using this for definition purposes, like, LOPA reviews, but also we can use it for a fully lighting mock-up situation. That's the reason why we have the tablet standing there. And if you go now very slowly or fast, depends how you want to do it, through this aircraft, you actually have the opportunity to compare a 2-4-2 configuration and then a 3-3-3 configuration. So you see it's in one mock-up, but you have the opportunity to compare, and you just walk approximately 7.5 meters. So very convenient for you as a customer coming out of the meeting room, going into the mock-up. Either we have this on static display. If we're knowing that the customer is interested in this specific layout, well, we refurbish the mock-up. In this case, it's the high mock-up. That's the reason why we have an elevator just standing there. Taking out a seat model, bringing in a different seat model, especially when we're talking about eco or premium eco class, that's something we can easily do in 15 minutes.
So if I'm a customer and I'm interested in a 333, but I want the specific seat I'm looking at, I don't want this one, you can swap that out in a matter of...
Absolutely. That's what I meant with the storage. Our storage is, it's huge. It's not just huge here on site. We also have some space out of our Airbus environment in other hangars, which is also Airbus in the end, but they're not here in Finkenwerder, Hamburg site. So then we actually bring this stuff from A to B. So that's the reason why we always need to plan well in advance. What do we need to have nearby? And this is based on experience. Then in the end, okay, this airline might be interested in that. But otherwise, worst case scenario, we need to have somebody driving a little bit far to get the products and to bring them here. But this might be something then which is, turning from Tuesday to Wednesday, but not on the same day. We have a dedicated design studio also for the single aisle, which is there upstairs. So it's also full of materials. So we separate a little bit the design studio for the 320 and 330 and for the 350. That's also based on history, but on the other side we needed space for all the different materials. And now we're going down here. We're passing this one. You can have a look inside, film if you want to. It's probably the shortest aircraft in the world. You're boarding through door 1 and there you have a door 4 already. This gives you an idea. Same mood lighting configuration again, same as in the aircraft, because we want to come as close as possible to the cabin environment. You've seen the hero light just next door, and here you have a cabin without hero light. In the end, it's up to the customer to decide. It's still the big bins, the XL bins. Nevertheless, there's no hero light installed in this aircraft. So it's up to you as an airline to go for this package or this package. We have clearly recommendations, but it depends on the brand, a bit also on the budget. What is it you want? With a hero light, for example, like the big ceiling light we're seeing, there are lots of branding opportunities, I need to admit as well. Here you also have branding opportunities, but you have one less if you would see it from a branding perspective. You've seen so many areas, and now I would say you've really seen approximately 75% of this space, also from a functional and from the tool set. You've seen here, also there, we have 4 mock-ups of those for the single aisle. We even have in another one, actually in one of the areas, we have specific playrooms where it's also about functional testing. We have this, let's say, hybrid environment, and maybe it's the last because it's anyway on our way out. We actually have the door 1, and we're just going through here and you see the Airspace XL bin. That's exactly the bin we've just seen in the mock-up, also equipped with the luggage. And then actually you see as a comparison the Airspace standard bin. So here in this space you get the idea of differences. That's the reason why we didn't put it in one mock-up, because you would never see it, but here it makes sense. And it's fantastic for you as an airline to actually really distinguish between the size, and if you bring your luggage even, then you realize, is that something suitable or does that suit you more? And what do I need to take when I go this way? And those comparisons, also matching it with the different seats, and those seats, they all look the same, but they're not. They are all differently configured. If you look, for example, at the backrest here and you compare it to the backrest here, they are different. Because there you have a magazine rack, there you don't have it. Those details, they are important to us because it's important to the airline customer to decide in the end for which option they want to go. And those would be also my closing words, guiding you a little bit out here. What's the step on your way out? Well, we're actually passing this environment. Has been a pleasure actually showing you around. I'm very sure you're going to have a great day with the colleagues, and there are many more fantastic things to see here on Hamburg Finkenwerder site. And yeah, one day we might see each other again, and stay healthy. See you soon.
Thank you. I really hope you enjoyed that tour of the Airbus Customer Definition Centre. I definitely found it fascinating. A lot of stuff that I didn't even know about the detail that goes into all this. Really impressive stuff, and I only wish that I had an airliner I was outfitting and could go through and pick all the stuff and have lots of coffee and snacks too. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for coming along. For Flight Radar 24, I'm Gabriel Lee.